Welcome back to the podcast, you beautiful souls. I have a beautiful soul for us today. Someone who is making moves, who's in the business world, who's taken action. Shakira Jade, she is an entrepreneur and business coach. So she's got a ton of value that she's going to bring into you today. She's started literally from the ground up in her spare bedroom to building and scaling to 3 locations with a team of 25 doing over $4 million in revenue. So that's just the starting point. She's now transitioning into e-commerce, into online businesses, into coaching other entrepreneurs to overcome and just confront the real facts of running a business, the ups and downs, the transparency that comes with running a business, to give entrepreneurs the confidence and the courage to actually push through and experience the joy and freedom that a business can give you if you're willing to put the work in to get there. Shakira, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Lewis. That was a very beautiful introduction. So thank you.
Hopefully it did you a little bit of justice, maybe not, but we're going to get into the full shebang anyways. Before we get into it, how are you today? How are you feeling? And how are you out of 10 personally and out of 10 professionally, and why? And you can't say 7. 7's not an answer.
Oh, okay. 7's not allowed. Okay. Let me see. Personally, I'm gonna say I am a 10. I just got back from 5 weeks in the US. So I mean, I can't really complain. It was a really
Good.
amazing holiday. Been having a great time catching up with friends and family. So yeah, personally 10. Professionally, I would say maybe an 8. I would say things are pretty good. Everything's going well. The businesses are growing. I just started a new coaching business this year, about 6 months ago, which has been amazing. It's something I've always wanted to do, and I'm absolutely loving doing it. But of course, being an entrepreneur at heart, there's always room for improvement. So I'm probably never going to give myself a 10. It's always going to be less so that I, have room to grow and improve.
Beautiful answer. And a lot of entrepreneurs and high achievers generally have a similar answer there as well. So I'd love to know from you. I've obviously read your story. I had the pleasure of coming on your podcast. Thank you for having me there as well. I'd love to know your story in a little bit more detail. Obviously, you gave a little bit of a snippet on the intro. What's your story from start wherever it is that you want to start? But yeah, what's the story of how you'd be able to create the success and the freedom that you have now?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I started my career back in high school. I actually dropped out of high school in year 9, did not finish high school. I can't even believe that my parents let me do that now that I think back about it. But they said, as long as you go and study something, you can leave. I just really wanted to get out of school and start making money. That was my goal. So dropped out of school, actually became a makeup artist. I did a course in makeup artistry and I learned how to do makeup for weddings and hair and all kinds of things. And we did like special effects makeup for movies with like bullet holes and blood and everything like that. So that was really fun. And I loved doing that. But I did feel like running a makeup business was difficult for me, especially because I was so young at the time. So I started working in a salon. I started moving into hairdressing, and then I discovered hair extensions. And back then, this was, 18, 19 years ago, there wasn't really anyone doing hair extensions. It was a really new kind of concept. And I just fell in love with being able to transform the way that a woman looks and be able to make her feel really beautiful, on the inside and on the outside as well. And also because women would always bring in these photos of hair that they wanted, but there was just no way they could achieve it without hair extensions. So it was really cool to be able to give someone such a big transformation and see the look on their face, and people would cry with happiness and all these things would happen. And I just became so addicted to that feeling of helping women look and feel really good. So that was where my journey started. I started my business when I was 20 years old, and I'm now 36. So I've had it for 16 years. Just started in my spare bedroom doing friends, and then slowly built up my clientele over time. And now I have 3 salon locations, I have a team of 25. We also have an online e-commerce business. So about 10 years ago, I decided to start my own hair extensions brand. So I went to China to meet with a manufacturer to get them to make sure they could make it to my specifications and the colors that I wanted and the specific things that I wanted with the brand, so that I could create my own hair extensions brand. And we also now have hair products. We have a line of hair products. We have tools, everything you need to install hair extensions. So we supply hair extensions to hundreds of salons around Australia. We also do education as well. We teach people how to do our unique methods that we have. Some of the methods I've developed myself, and they're unique to hair candy, which is exciting. And we were able to teach that to other hairdressers. So that is where my business is at today. And like I said, I started 6 months ago doing business coaching as well, because I've been doing that for a few years now, just for friends and people that would message me and say, hey, can you help me with my business? I want to learn what to do what you've done. And I just thought, well, I may as well make it a real business and start, actually charging people for it, because I just love doing it so much. So yeah, that's my story.
That's incredible. And to do what you've done, there's a couple key things I would love to lean into. But yeah, nothing short of incredible. And you're warming up. There's so much more to, you're so young, and there's so much more growth. And you just have obviously the compounding of your skills and resources and experience just to go further faster. So really cool. Something that come to mind that stood out for me in that story is just your even 16 years. And like I just said, that's just the warm up in my opinion. But for majority of people, that can seem like a long time. And that I believe this blew my mind when I heard this. You've got a podcast, and you might find this crazy, but 80% of podcasts don't make it past 3 episodes. Fucking 3. I'm like, that's not that hard, surely. So literally do more than 3 and you're in the top 20%. And then I think it's 99% don't make it past 12 months. It's the drop-off rate's insane. But in business, you probably heard the statistic that 97% don't make it 10 years. So out of 1,000 businesses, 10 years later, 3% make it. And that doesn't mean make money. It means you haven't thrown in the towel yet, right? And you've been going for 16 years. So what's been your mindset, your beliefs, your strategy, or just something that you've done for you to have that long-term vision, to stay consistent, to not even, it doesn't sound like you got too much of the shiny object syndrome with you. I'm sure you do think of things, but you've been able to stay consistent for 16 years in this business. Tell us, what's your magic sauce, or how have you been able to do that?
That's a good question. Well, I will definitely say it's not been easy. I want to start out there saying it has absolutely not been easy. And there have been so many times where I have been crying to my mom or to my husband and saying, I just can't do this anymore. It is so hard. And it's tested me in ways that I never even thought possible. And sometimes things happen in business that you could never have imagined. You can try to plan for every single thing and be so prepared, and something will come out of left field and completely throw you for 6. So I do want to start out by saying that, running a business is really hard, and there are a lot of challenges. I don't feel like people talk about that enough. They like to show the success and the money and the things they have, but they don't talk about the struggles that it takes to get to that point. So absolutely, if anyone is listening and they have a business and they're struggling or they're going through that, just know it is normal. It's normal to want to feel like you want to give up. It's normal to feel like it's too hard, because it's very challenging. But I think one of the biggest things that kept me going was my why, just thinking about why I'm running this business, why I'm here, what is my true purpose for having this business, and really sticking with that. And another thing I kept thinking was, if this business doesn't work out, I'm going to have to go back and work for someone else. I'm going to have to go back to a 9 to 5. I'm going to lose all my freedom and flexibility. I'm going to lose a lot of my income. All of these things really pushed me to want to keep going, because it was almost like the pain of having to go back to a 9 to 5 was worse than the pain of just sticking at it and pushing through. So I just kept thinking, okay, this is the least worst thing that can happen to me. So you've just got to keep going with it and keep pushing through. And I also have been doing personal development since I was about 14 or 15. My parents gave me a box of Tony Robbins cassette tapes. That's how old it was. It wasn't even a CD. It was a cassette tape box that I would listen to. It was the personal power program that he had. And it was so transformative for me. And I think at that young age, really getting into personal development, I started journaling, I started goal setting, I did my vision boards. Yeah. And I was so young. Now that I think back, so young to be doing that, but that was so transformative for me to set my whole life up for success, because I knew that I was meant for more and I knew that I could achieve so much more. But having those tools of the personal development, and then continuing that through to now, I've never stopped doing personal development. I've never stopped attending seminars, reading books, listening to audiobooks, listening to podcasts. It's never stopped for me. And I think that's really helped me to stay in the game.
Love it. What was the most challenging thing for you to overcome? Like you said, you went through some times you were crying to mum, to your husband. What was the biggest one for you that you overcame?
There's actually two that stand out for me. So pre-COVID, I can't remember exactly when it was, I had gotten into debt. Actually, I'd gotten into about $200,000 worth of debt between taxes and credit cards and stuff for my business. And it's because I wasn't managing my finances properly. I didn't have a good accountant who was helping me manage everything. And I'd gotten myself into a real mess. And that was a really stressful situation for me, where I felt like, this is so much money. Like, how am I ever going to pay this back? How am I ever going to move through this? Because at the time I wasn't making, I don't even remember how much I was making, but it was like well and truly more than my year's worth of salary. Maybe it might have been 2 or 3 years worth of salary that I had in debt. So that was an extremely stressful period. But I did get a good accountant and I got a good financial planner who helped me to restructure everything. And I think it was within maybe 18 months, I had it completely paid off. And if you had told me at the start of that 18 months later, I'd be completely debt free and it wouldn't be an issue for me anymore, I would never have believed you, because it felt like the end of the world at the time when I had found out how much there was. But I was able to work through it and come out stronger and smarter on the other side. And I know how not to get in that situation again. So it's all a lesson. But then another challenge I had as well was during COVID, I had a lot of my team members leave the business. So some of them had been with me for 4 or 5 years. And I had a whole heap of them leave all at the same time. I think COVID definitely changed things for a lot of people and made people rethink what they wanted to do and things like that. But that was also a really stressful time in my business, because I was reflecting and thinking, have I done something wrong? Like taking it personally, basically, and feeling like it was me or something I could have done better, or should I have tried harder? Having all these thoughts of self-doubt and, feelings of, I guess, pain as well. It's painful when you've been working with people for so long and they don't want to work with you anymore. It's hard. So that was a really difficult period in the business. But then, funnily enough, that year ended up being the biggest year that my business has ever had. And then it's continued to grow every year since then. And it's strange because it was such a stressful time for me. And on the other hand, once it was over, it ended up being the best thing that could have happened and the biggest year that we have ever had. So I think it's interesting too to look back at some of those really big challenges that I had. It's like once I got through them, the best results came and the biggest transformation came and the biggest growth came after I'd been through those really hard challenges. But when you're going through them at the time, of course, someone might tell you that and you're like, oh, whatever. Like, it's so hard to see the other side when you're in it, but it's just nice to be able to reflect and see that, those really challenging times can actually breed a really good result.
That's awesome. Beautiful story. I would like to zoom in on those. I believe we mentioned, I think you might have mentioned it already or before we click record, the 80-20 rule. Like, success is 80% mindset, 20% skills. And you need both. You can't have one without the other. I believe, obviously, one's a little bit more important with the mindset side. I believe you're on the same page. What is the beliefs and strategies that you use to get through that difficult time? Was there a belief there had to be something for you to say, instead of saying, fuck this and throwing in the towel, or fuck this, I'll go get a 9 to 5, or whatever the dialogue can be for some people? What was the beliefs and strategies that got you through that tough time?
I think reflecting, like, particularly when I had the tax debt and I realized that sort of situation, I think reflecting back about the challenges that I'd had previous to that. So there's something you can do, which is called working out your success strategy. And it's basically looking back at challenges that you've had and working out, what did I do when I was facing those challenges that got me through them? And for me personally, I just worked on one small thing every single day. So I had this huge, big, looming problem. But I just decided to break it down into little pieces and I was going to work on it every single day. So when I laid my head on the pillow at night, I wanted to know that I had just done one small thing, anything to step me in the right direction away from that debt and into a better position. And that's sort of my personal success strategy when I'm going through something challenging now. I just think, okay, I'm just going to do one small thing every day. It doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't have to be all my energy and all my time, but I can sleep at night knowing that I've done that one thing to pull me in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I think for anyone, it's good to just reflect, like, how do you personally get through challenges? Like for you, it might be like, I'm just going to throw everything at this and I'm going to get through this, and I'm going to give all my energy and all my time because that feels good to me. And if that works for you and that feels good for you, that's what you should do. But I think it's about discovering your own personal success strategy that will lead you through those challenging times. And I think as far as beliefs go, my parents definitely always taught me that I could do anything I set my mind to. They were really I feel very blessed to have such supportive parents that were like, if you want to go climb that tree, go for it. Like, be careful because you could fall off and break your leg, but it's fine. You can go and do it. They were never keeping me close or anything like that. And even through my business, I always keep thinking I can do anything I set my mind to. I can figure anything out. There's actually a great book by Marie Forleo called Everything is Figure Outable. And it was a really good principle in that book about anything that you come across in business, in life, everything has a solution. There's a way to figure out everything. You just have to figure it out. And I feel like that's almost been my belief, my mindset with my business, just naturally. It's like, if a problem comes up, this is not the end of the world. You will figure it out. There is a way. You just have to figure out how to get there. But don't let anybody tell you that you can't. Don't let anything stop you. You absolutely can figure out anything that you want and anything you put your mind to.
So powerful. I love that your parents were into self-development so early. And just, I wanted to mirror something that you just brought up. I went to a self-development event, I think it was 2 years ago now. Where are we, 2023? So yeah, about 2 years ago, I was in Sydney and we did a limiting belief exercise. And I'd done it many times before, but we've always got more. And if you think you don't, there's your first limiting belief to work on. But anyways, the belief I had was I don't know. And it was like, I want to scale my coaching business, but I don't know how to do it. I want to do this, but I don't know how to do it. And it was like, kind of like Robert Kiyosaki says, if I don't know, I can't afford it versus how can I afford it? It just opens up your mind. And I just remember the rewiring that I did in that particular session was everything is figure outable. So I just like that you brought that up then. So such a powerful, like everything. It's like when you run into a block with, I'm doing a funnel at the moment. I'm not the biggest techie guy. I don't really enjoy it that much, but it's like the payment provider doesn't work. It's okay. It's figure outable. Google, YouTube, ask for help, pay someone to do it for you. Everything's figure outable. So powerful, really powerful. I've got something that's a bit maybe an add-on to that question. When I was in my business career, I think we had sort of similar journeys to some degree with the physical bricks and mortar studios. I did the gyms, you've done the hairdressing. And I don't know about you, but like, I did not know what the fuck I was doing at the start. I was just like, kind of, they call it like the uninformed optimist, where it's like, is it going to be sick? Let's go. And just say yes to everything. And then for me, I got myself 3 gyms deep and like no systems, no cash reserves, poor leadership. And it was fucked for me anyways. And for me, if I didn't have, like, I call it my apprenticeship of business, of entrepreneurship, I did that through Kerwin Ray. He was my bigger business mentor early on. If it wasn't for that, I would have crashed and burned. I wouldn't have been able to get to where I am now. I'm curious for you, where has mentorship or coaching or your own growth? Obviously, you mentioned you were doing the Tony Robbins cassette tapes, which is cool. But yeah, just along the way, has there been coaches, mentors, programs, books that have really served you and helped you to develop into the businesswoman that you are today?
Yes, absolutely. I definitely think, success, you need to have a mentor to be successful. I don't know anybody that is successful that has done it entirely on their own and hasn't had someone to kind of help them and guide them through. I did definitely, my parents were good mentors for me. They actually started their business around the same time I started my business, funnily enough. So we would bounce ideas off each other. We were both learning. In the beginning, I was definitely really into reading. reading books was the biggest thing for me. If I didn't know how to do something, I would read a book about it, especially because Google wasn't as much of a thing back then as well. You couldn't just Google the answer to things. You had to really research and look for things. So I read a ton of books. That was where I kind of started out. And then I did actually get a Tony Robbins business coach. If you can't tell, I'm obsessed with Tony Robbins. I absolutely love him. So I got one of his business coaches and I worked with her for many years. She was absolutely amazing. And funnily enough, we mostly worked on my mindset. Yeah. We did a little bit of strategy here and there, but predominantly what we would work on was my mindset to help me overcome the blocks that I was facing. And that was what really transformed my business, because a lot of the time in business, you actually know what to do anyway. You actually know what's required. Okay, you may not know how to do a funnel, but you can go and Google that. But you probably know if your customers aren't happy, if you're not bringing in enough sales, you kind of know what's going on in your business, and you know what you need to do to fix it a lot of the time, or you can quite easily find an answer. But getting your mindset right, and just even being able to step back and almost look at yourself and your business as a third party, not to be so emotionally involved and so caught up in your business where you feel like you can't see see it for what it really is. That's where you need someone to kind of reflect back to you what it is that you're not seeing and what blind spots you potentially might have, or directions you could go in, or things that you just haven't seen yourself. And obviously someone who has gone before you who can help you is great. And I still have a coach now. I have a coach who is really high level. He's, very successful. He's got many businesses. He's basically got the dream life that I would like to achieve. And I work with him. And then I actually have a second coach for my business coaching business, because she's a phenomenal business coach. And she teaches coaches how to become coaches, really good coaches. So I have one for sort of my businesses and, my e-commerce and everything like that. And then I have another one for my business coaching, because I wanted both their expertise in different areas, but I chose people who really were living the life that I wanted to live, and also have that evidence that they've grown really great businesses, that they've, done really amazing things. And yeah, I think it doesn't matter what level you get to, you're always going to need that mentorship and that coaching.
Love it. Do you have any suggestions on either books that really served you, or even tips for when looking for a mentor? You mentioned, I think, one just then about the experience and runs on the board, and I'm sure there's more to that, but yeah, any suggestions just for anyone listening right now being like, okay, fuck, that sounds great. I need to get my shit together. I'm going to read some books, but fuck, how many books are there on self-development, right? So any ones that really move the needle for you, or as well, any tips for when picking a mentor to work with?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you asked about tips for picking a mentor, because I actually started my coaching business because one of my friends basically got scammed by a so-called business mentor. She didn't really research her or sort of see what she was about. And, a lot of coaches out there, they can sort of talk a big game online and present a really good front. But once she got into the program, it was just a total mess. And she was telling me about it, and she'd spent a lot of money on it. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is terrible. Like, I can't believe there are people out there doing this, and I know that I could do it a lot better. So that's actually what prompted me to start my business. So I think just the credentials is a big thing. You really need to look into who you're working with. I just see so many business coaches out there that don't have a business, or business coaching is their only business. They don't have any previous businesses, or they don't have anything that's really tangible that they can show for their success. They just can talk really well online. So I think making sure you pick someone that has actually either they either have a degree, or they have some kind of something in business, or they have had a business and they have that real world experience that they can actually share with you. And making sure that watching what they're doing, looking at their lifestyle, making sure they're making sure who you're paying your money to, and what kind of mentor you're getting into. And also just making sure they align with your beliefs. I think following them for a little while, making sure that what they're saying really aligns with you as a person, because sometimes someone might be really flashy online, or they might seem like they're so successful and they have all these things, but their mindset that got them there, or the way that they got there, isn't ethical, or it doesn't align with your beliefs. So I think making sure you're following someone, you're making sure that what they're saying is really aligning with you as a person. I think that's really important. And then in terms of personal development books, I mean, where do I start? There's so many that I could recommend, but one of my absolute favorites, and I think is great for everyone at the beginning, is The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. It's probably my favorite book, but it's literally sitting right next to me on my desk right now. But it just covers so many different topics. It covers business, personal development. He talks about even manifestation and vision boards and goal setting. How to run a business, how to have cash flow. There's just so many different topics, and it's kind of broken down into smaller chapters. So sometimes I'll even go, if I'm feeling a certain way or I'm thinking about something, I'll go to the book and there's about 50 different small chapters, and I'll just pick out the topic that I'm struggling with at that time and I'll read that chapter. So it's kind of good. You don't even need to read it cover to cover. You can kind of pick and choose what you want from it. And I also love Atomic Habits by James Clear. That's one of my other favorites. I think it's just so important for business owners to have good habits, because motivation is always going to come and go. It's never going to be there all the time. So having good structure and good habits in place where you're kind of just on autopilot doing those same things over and over again, that's what's going to lead you to being successful.
Love that. I actually haven't heard of Success Principles, so I've just added that to my list. I'm not sure if you have like a list of books that just always gets bigger of ones to read. It's like you can't read as quick as the list grows. So
yes.
Beautiful. Awesome. I've got a curveball for you. I like to ask my guests this. What is something that you think about a lot, but you don't get to speak about that often or at all?
Oh.
So you ponder it a bit, but you don't really get to talk about it too often, or to maybe the level that you want to.
Might be a little bit controversial, but I think work ethic is a big thing that I see. I know like a little while ago, Kim Kardashian came out and said, I've got the best advice. You need to get your ass up and work. Nobody wants to work these days. Everybody just wants everything given to them, handed to them on a silver platter. And I feel like that's something I see a lot in the world in general. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, when they're starting out their businesses, they want all the things and they want the lifestyle and they want the money, but they're not prepared to work for it. They're not prepared to put the time in. They're not prepared to sacrifice going out with their friends on the weekends, or, sacrifice watching Netflix. Like they're fine to watch a full series on Netflix, but they don't have time to work on their business, or they don't have time to, start a side hustle or better themselves in some way. And I think, just coming from my experience, I have had to work really hard to get to where I am, and I've had to put the time and the effort in and the hours. And it didn't just come easily. And like, people look at where I am now, but this has been 16 years in the making. So it's not an overnight thing. It's taken a really long time to get here. And so, yeah, I just think, I know it sounds like there are a lot of people now that are like, oh, you need to have work-life balance and you need to have this and that. But I think in this beginning stages of starting a business, it's just not possible. That's my belief. I think you really do have to put the time and effort and hours into your business to really get it going. And then later on, you reap the benefits where you can really pull back and you can have that lifestyle and you can have that balance.
Yeah, great answer. It mirrors a lot. I'm a big fan of Alex Hormozi, which I'm sure you're a fan of as well, and Layla as well. And he talks a lot about like leverage and your ignorance debt. Like when you're at the start, it's like you have to work longer because it's like your level of precision and level of skill set is probably shit because you're just getting started, right? Whereas you obviously increase your skill sets, you've got system, you've got resources, you can pay for marketing, you've got things built, then that's where you can take the foot off to a degree, or just focus on maybe higher level things, more creative thinking, more directional thinking, rather than quite on the tools when you first get started. But yeah, absolutely agree. Really, really love that. I've got a question for you, because this is actually something I've struggled with a lot with my upbringing, not upbringing, sorry, my entrepreneurial upbringing and my entrepreneurial journey is just the whole concept of leadership. And something for me when I first got into it, I definitely had I guess, a skewed perception of leadership, of what a good leader is like. And I think I downloaded it from just watching movies and these big charismatic decision makers, hard asses, sort of like get the fuck out if you're not part of here, like your Steve Jobs sort of archetypes, where he's so extreme. And obviously he obviously ended up being what he's done. But for me, I really struggled with leadership. And for you a team of 25 and 3 different locations, where, because there's kind of those phases of where you grow to, like, you can obviously got to lead yourself, and then you can lead one person, a couple of people, and then more than a couple of people, then people that aren't even around your proximity. I'm sure there's been levels of evolutions for you in your leadership journey. What's been your leadership journey, and what's been your challenges? What's worked for you, and maybe some suggestions on how someone can be a better leader?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, being a leader is definitely one of the most challenging things. And I would say for me personally, the people part of the business is the most challenging part of the business, because people are unpredictable. You can have systems and processes in place, but you can't predict what people are going to do.
Yeah.
I actually have a really good recommendation for a book on leadership. It's called The 5 Levels of Leadership by John C.
Seen that. Yeah.
Maxwell.
Love
Yeah,
that.
all of his books are amazing, actually, about leadership. There's actually a little small book he has, How Successful People Lead. It's quite a little tiny one that we give to all of our managers when they come on board. And it's really easy to read, but it gives them a good overview. Another great one is How to Be a Good Boss. That's part of the EOS system, which we use in my business. Both really great books, but a lot of them, the 5 levels of leadership particularly, talks about the 5th level. You can be a level 1 leader, level 2 leader, but the 5th level leader is being a leader who is able to train other leaders to lead. So you kind of work through these levels of leadership where, like you said, you're just leading yourself, and then you're leading maybe 1 or 2 people, but then you need to be able to teach your team to be good leaders. And that continues down. And in my company now, we have multiple layers of leadership where we have multiple management levels. So the person who is reporting to me is someone who I have trained and work with very closely, so that she can build leaders within the business, so that I'm not having to teach all these different people. I've put my energy into one person, she puts her energy into 4 people, and it kind of goes down like that. So you want to really be focusing on building leaders within your business. And I think sometimes people worry about investing in their team. They think, like, what if I invest all this time in training them and teaching them, or sending them to seminars, or, bettering them, and then they just leave the business? But the worst thing that could possibly happen would be that you don't train them, and that they're not very good. And then that is going to ruin your business, and it's going to affect your business, and then give your business a bad reputation, and perhaps have team members beneath them leave and things like that. So I think investing in the leaders in your team is one of the most important things that will help to grow your business. And personally, I guess my leadership style, I'm pretty easygoing as a person. I'm probably like the opposite of the movies and, kind of what you were describing before. I definitely at the start kind of let people walk all over me and really didn't put my foot down as much. So that was a learning curve for me, to learn to really stand up for myself, to really, push for what's best for the business, because obviously I care about my business. I care about our reputation. I care about, making sure it's successful. So I really had to learn how to lead with probably more of a backbone, but always having compassion and kindness, because that's very important to me, to create like a safe work environment where everyone's happy to come to work. Pretty much all the salons I worked in before I had my own business, I hated it. And I'd go home crying every day, and people were so awful, and the bosses were so awful. Like, I could tell you so many stories of things that they did. And I just vowed I would never have a business like that. I want people to be really happy to come to work and have a really good work environment. So for me as a leader, that was always setting the tone for the business, that, we don't accept, negative talk about each other. We we support each other, we're positive. If anyone's found like gossiping, like we're going to sit down and talk to you because that's not okay here. And I find it's good because it kind of weeds out the people. Like if we do have someone come into the organization and they are one of those people, they get weeded out really quickly because
Beautiful.
that's not what we're about. So yeah, that's kind of my style, I guess, of leadership.
Beautiful. And I actually relate a lot to you, where I had I guess the delusion of that's how you have to be as a leader versus like actually understanding your style, which I like your term as well. And where like I love John C. Maxwell. He changed my life around the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership was the first book. And then Simon Sinek and then Jocko Willink. They're kind of my three sort of leadership sort of mentors in a bundle. But yeah, really, really transformational. I've got possibly one or two more questions, depending how long this answer takes. You obviously get into the coaching world, which is really cool. And obviously I'm there now. I love it. It lights me up. Very good business model as well. And I'm just curious from you, what is it that you love coaching people? If you were to give a bit of a free coaching session for the people listening to this, obviously it's hard uniquely to the individual and what they're going through. But if you were to give them like some pillars or some suggestions for them to move forward with their personal life and their business, what's some coaching that you can offer the listeners right now?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I would say one of the biggest, most important things to growing and scaling a business is having good systems in place. Something I'm very passionate about. And I think a lot of businesses overlook that because when you start your business, it's normally just you or maybe, one or two other people. And you kind of just get into it and you just start doing whatever it is that you're good at or selling a product or selling your services, but you don't really stop to think, okay, what do I actually have to put in place in order to scale the business or in order to make all the tasks that are a part of the business either automated or repeatable by somebody else that's not me. And the more that you can learn to remove yourself from your business and have it run without you, the more successful, not only more successful, but the more profitable you can make the business, the more it's going to be worth. So if you're solely in the business and you're working in it every single day and you can't leave to take a holiday or you can't pull away from the business, then you're going to always be stuck in that same position. So if your goal is to grow a business and you want to exit it one day, or you want to have multiple locations, or you want it to run without you, you're going to have to put things in place so that it can do that. So I think that is one of the most important things is putting those systems and processes in place, making sure obviously you have a great team to carry out those systems so that then you can step back and you can kind of let the business grow because it's a bit different with a coaching business. Like obviously when we're coaching, we are the coaches and we are very involved with our clients. So it depends what kind of business you have. If you have a business where you want to be working directly with people and you want to be involved, that's obviously one style of business. But then the other style is, like e-commerce business, for example, that can really run without too much effort, without too much upkeep, and it can bring you a lot of income and give you so much time back, which is, I think that was a big goal for me. And now I'm able to do coaching and I'm doing coaching because it's something I want to do, not something I have to do. I'm not doing it to just try to make a quick buck or I'm trying to earn some extra income. I genuinely enjoy doing it. And I already have a, on repeat income. Like I just told you, I was in America for 5 weeks. I worked for probably 2 hours a week on my laptop while I was there,
Yeah.
but my businesses run themselves. So I don't have to be there. I don't have to be continually in it and I'm still earning an income. And I think if you want to get to that phase and that's something that you want in your business, then the first place to start is systems, processes, getting everything really honed down to a fine art so that you can, step away or you can create a recurring income for yourself.
So cool. Really cool. And even that, there's something I want to ask you in there. So how did you go to get into that point where you can actually remove yourself from it and not necessarily just the systems? There's a quote one of my mentors I was working with from a leadership scaling the gym aspect when I was in the gyms. He said something that was really cool. He probably got it from a book, but it was really good. It's like every business shouldn't be franchised, but every business should be franchisable. So you should have the systems and processes to franchise the business if you choose to. You shouldn't, because not all businesses should be, but you should have the level of systems like a McDonald's that's where my first job was, where you can have 14-year-olds, 12-year-olds running multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar companies just because of the system's so easy. The patty goes here, cheese goes here, wrap it this way, fling it down there. The person's got that button, and it's like it's all a system, right? So my question was from it more so from a fear of letting go, because it's something that I did have early on in my journey. It's very much gone now, because I've been able to remove myself from my business as well as yourself. But what's that like from your journey to be able to, I guess, get off the tools as such and empower people and be able to literally go away for 5 weeks into another country and only do 2 hours a week or so? What was it like getting from kind of on the tools to that point? Obviously, it's a long journey, but what were like sort of the big mental shifts for you to get to that point?
Yeah, definitely. I do want to say I worked at McDonald's as well. So
Yeah.
shout out. How lucky are we that we had that as a first job, though? Because that is the best example of systems working so seamlessly. And it teaches you. I learned so much working at McDonald's too for now running a business. It's so interesting and they've done it so well.
I've got a funny. I was first job was Macca's, and I was at the back. Were you at the front or were you at the back?
I was at the front and then mostly in drive-through as well.
Beautiful. I was at the back, and my I had a bad influence working there with me. There's this guy, he got fired like 2 weeks after this situation, but it's just a shit. It's like, bro, just eat all the food when you're on shift. Just eat it as you make it. So I was eating one of the nuggets, and then one of the managers came around and she said, "Open your mouth." And I had a nugget in my mouth. Oh yeah, that was really funny.
Oh no,
She's like, "Do that again, and you're fired." But I
that's
learned my
so
lesson. I didn't do that again. But funny story. Keep going as you were.
saving you from gaining a ton
Yeah.
of weight too working there.
Yes.
Um, yeah, no, it was such a great place to work and I absolutely loved it. But yeah, going back to sorry, now I've forgotten what the question was.
Have you gone from being on the tools as such and being in the business to being able to get to a point where you leave the country for 5 weeks, only do 2 hours a week, and just really remove yourself from the business?
Let go. Yes. So definitely letting go is hard, especially in the beginning when it's just you, especially if you're servicing clients. It's really hard to give up that control, I guess. And it does kind of come down to control. You want things to be done a certain way. But when you think about what all the tasks are in your business, obviously the first place I would start would be giving out tasks that you don't want to be doing. So finding someone that can do the tasks that you hate doing that maybe you're not even really good at, really trying to delegate those tasks off your plate because generally that's not too hard to give away if it's something that you don't like doing, getting rid of those tasks first. And then when it comes to the tasks that are perhaps a bit more skilled, like a skilled person needs to do them, then it comes down to training. So you want to make sure you train your staff to do things the way that you do them and to hold that same standard that you hold. And anytime we have someone in our business who's not performing well or they're making mistakes, the first thing we always look at and when we talk to them is what training do they need? Like, what could we be doing better to give them the tools that they need to perform well and to do the job properly? Because a lot of the time people want to do the job and they want to succeed and they want to be good at it. And it's because they don't have the right training or they just need a little bit more mentoring to get them to the level that you need them at. So I think if you do let go and you do kind of let others sort of start running the business, you have to trust that they're going to do a good job. And if they make a mistake, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. You just need to look at it and learn like, okay, do I need to give them more training? Do I need to have a better onboarding in place? What could I be doing that could give them the tools they need? Maybe I need to buy them some kind of different tool or something that they need to make their job easier. It's actually something that my dad always used to say was when you have employees, you need to give them all the tools to do their job properly. Like if they need, I don't know, like a stapler or they need like something to tape something up in the e-commerce business or whatever that's going to make their life easier, you want to do that. You want to invest in making sure that your team has everything they need to do their job comfortably. You don't want to be having them come in and not having the right tools, not having the right resources, not having the right training. That onus really is back on you as a leader to make sure they have all those things. And if you've provided all of that and you've given them everything they can and then they're still not doing it, then that is a different issue. But you really just want to look at what you could be doing as a leader to empower people. And once you start doing that and you start building your systems and processes and you see how they work, then of course you can refine them to make them even better. But once everyone's kind of in that groove of performing, the procedures over and over again, and everyone's working in the same direction, then it is easy then to step back, because it's like a smooth ship that's sailing. It's not like, you're not putting fires out. Everybody knows what they need to do. They know if this situation happens, they do this. If that situation happens, they do that. So everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing, and it gets a lot easier once you've got all that in place.
So much knowledge, so much knowledge. This has been really, really cool, really practical, really, obviously mindset sprinkled throughout it as well. Before we wrap this up, is there anything that's on your mind, or just any last messages that you'd love to share?
I guess my message would just be, if you have a business and you want to grow, just educate yourself as much as you possibly can. If you can't afford to get a mentor or a coach, just read books or audiobooks, or go on YouTube. Do whatever you can to just educate yourself as much as possible, because it's never going to be a bad thing investing in yourself and educating yourself. It's never going to be a waste of time. And you're going to better yourself, and it will show in not only business, but other areas of your life. So I just recommend educating yourself as much as possible.
So powerful. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you, potentially work with you? Where's the best place they can connect with you?
I am over on Instagram. My handle is @_Shakira Jade. My website is shakirajade.com. And I also have a podcast as well. It's called The Success Club. It's on Apple and Spotify. We have an episode together on there, which is also great. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Thank you so much for being here today. It's been so valuable, so much knowledge, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.